Hey guys, welcome to the stream. Hope everybody's doing pretty good today. Hope you guys are all staying safe, isolating, and passing the time, hopefully in your workshops, making some cool stuff. So today we're going to be turning one of those dog 3D print blanks. And actually, let me go get one real quick. I forgot to bring one over here. Got one set up over on the lathe. But I decided to go for the dog print one to go for like first. So again, these were given to me by Ashley over at Chipped Builds. She 3D printed them with PLA, I believe is what the filament is. But it's pretty cool. It's got little dog bones and paw prints. So I just cut this into two. Sometimes these 3D prints can be a little bit difficult to turn. I'm not anticipating any major problems. However, for this test, I thought I'm going to cut this into two Sierra style blanks just in case we run into problems with one for some reason. Oh shoot, I forgot I was going to... I actually shot video that I was going to show you guys, and I forgot to set this up. But basically, one of the things that I do to get through, difficult blanks, let's say, things where mixed materials, the resin doesn't really adhere to it as well as other things. Things that are kind of porous, like wood, and I don't know, like cholla cactus, like plant materials and things like that. Things that are porous. Resin sticks to pretty well. Things that are like plastic and smooth, it's a little bit of a tough bond. It's not the best bond you can get, and you can run into issues. So there's a couple things that I do preparing the blanks that kind of put the cards in my favor. You want to kind of keep heat low when you're drilling. That'll kind of help out. When I'm gluing tubes in, I do it a specific way, and there's a video. Let me actually go get a link real quick. And I'll, for people that are watching the replay, I will have a link to this video in the show notes as well. Let me see if I can find this real quick. There we go. Kind of show my method. This might start playing, so I apologize if it does. Yep, there it is. That's me talking. Let me grab this link here. But I have a specific way that I do the tube gluing that I think helps out. And basically, just to kind of give you an example of what it is, typically when you glue things together, it's best to put glue on both surfaces. And I see a lot of people just kind of slather a little bit of glue on the tube and then kind of move it around. And I'm sure you're getting glue on both surfaces, but the way that I do it, I use CA glue. And I want to say that this is not what I would do for wooden blanks. If you're just turning a wood blank pen, I wouldn't really, you got to really watch what you're doing with CA glue because it can cure up on you quicker. But for plastics and things like this, mixed materials, stabilized woods, what I do is I'm going to apply thick CA glue, and that stuff has a little bit longer working time. So I apply that to the tube and I work it into the tube. Then I take the thin, and I use the super fast thin from Starbond, and I douse the inside of the blank. And that does two things. One, I'm getting glue on the inside of the blank, and I've also gotten it on the tube. Then I put my tube in. The other thing that I think that does is if you douse the inside of the blank, if there are any areas where the material, it doesn't have a great bond, maybe there's a little separation, you're dousing the inside of that with super thin CA that's going to kind of penetrate into any areas. So it's one of those things that sets the cards it stacks the cards in your favor. It's going to kind of fill any little imperfections and things, So I did that. The other thing is when you're turning pens, one of the biggest problems with blowouts is just that glue bond. And so especially on the ends, you've turned the pen down and the ends are really, really thin. So you want to really make sure that you got a good glue bond on the ends. So what I do is I go back, put a silicone plug in the end, or basically plug the ends of the tube because you don't want to pour CA glue in. And then after I've cut the squared it up basically, then I come with that thin CA again, and I just kind of douse the inside of that just to make sure that I've gotten a good glue bond on the ends. And so I did that right before the show. So anyway, it should be kind of fun. I'm thinking that it should go well. I don't really, like I said, I don't really anticipate any problems. However, at the same time, I'm not going to just, like cowboy it and just kind of, turn it like a normal, wooden blank or something like that. I'm going to take, light cuts. One of the things, this PLA material, it has a really low melt point. For 3D printing, it's one of the lower materials. It's one of the lower melt points for 3D printing. And so you really got to watch your sanding. You don't want to overheat it because it can melt. And even when you're turning it, you want to kind of take really light cuts and just kind of, go easy on it for the most part. So anyway, so let me stop real quick and see one little announcement that I want to make, and like right at the front here, and somebody actually already mentioned it. Maker Central has been moved. I think it's like August 8th. I'm not 100% sure on the date, the exact day, but it's like the beginning of August is when that's going to be now. They've just basically pushed it back. So I just want to let everybody know, if you hadn't heard, Maker Central is not going to be in May. They've pushed it back to August. And so hopefully things will calm down and everything will be okay. We can make it over to the UK in August. So anyway, I hope everybody's doing good. A couple other little things. So yesterday, we went out and did a little bit of snowshoeing. They've shut down all the ski resorts, which was really disappointing for me since I snowboard. But we actually got to get out, and Thursdays are our day off, Gretchen and I. And so we actually got outside a little bit. I would highly recommend, I recommend, getting some stuff done in the shop while we're kind of shut up in our houses on lockdown. But if you can get out, take a walk, nature is very nice in times that are stressful. So I just want to kind of share that with everybody. So let me stop real quick and look and see. We got lots of people. You guys were here like early, it seems like. I'm not sure when you guys started coming in. I kind of started things and got everything set up, and then I was on the phone with my mom for most of that time, but getting some things done. So let's see here. I just want to see if I'm missing anything here. Moray made. I'm guessing Indianapolis. That's cool. Or Indiana. I'm not sure. When you say I'm from Indy, does that mean Indianapolis or does that just mean Indiana? Let me know about that. I'm not sure. I'm kind of leaning towards Indianapolis. Let's see. So it looks like people are kind of interested to see what's happening with this. I'm excited to turn this up. It's been a while since I've turned a kind of a difficult, somewhat difficult, I guess. I don't know if this is going to be like super difficult. I really actually don't think it's going to be that bad, but something, mixed material pen blank. So it'll be kind of fun to play around with this and see. And I'm really excited. I hope it turns out good because this is a brilliant, pattern. There's lots of, everybody loves dogs. So I think it'll be a good one. And we got Julie here. Nice. Sweet. All right. So I'm just kind of scanning. It didn't look like I missed anything specific. And hey, there's Ashley, chipped build. She's the one that 3D printed these. So let me switch cameras. It looks like I think that the video and sound might be off, and I was messing around with the settings with this, and I might have screwed something up. So I apologize if that's the case, but what are you going to do? So let me switch to the turning view. There it is. We got our blank set up. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to scoot this back a little bit, but I got this set up on the lathe with my, I like to turn between centers. I don't like pen mandrels. I think this is the most accurate way. I get the best results doing it this way. So for anybody that's kind of new to this setup, what you need is a dead center on the headstock side and your typical live center. And then the only difference is you got to use these turning between, they call them TBC bushings, turning between center bushings. And basically what they have, let me get another set here so I can kind of show you guys. The issue is you got to get, turning or TBC bushings for every type of pen kit. I guess that's the drawback, but I'd rather do that and have a little bit more accurate turning personally. But they have a 60-degree, let me get on camera here. They got 60-degree cone on the one end, so your centers are 60 degrees and they hold nice. You get good, hold and work holding basically, and then these just slide into the tubes. So it's a pretty simple way of going. The only other drawback is you can only do one at a time, one blank. So if you're turning like a slim line, you'd have to do one at a time. But again, I like this better because it's going to be, you know, I don't know, how do you put that, on center. It's not going to be wobbling. What I found with those mandrels was, out of the box, they would be bent, or not, they wouldn't be, you know, straight. And I always had problems putting on a CA finish, actually. That was one of the big things with me. So since I've switched to these, I've gotten way better results. So let me get my glasses on here. First thing I'm going to do is knock the corners down. I'm going to use my a gouge. I kind of like using a cutting tool to knock corners off. And if you really wanted to kind of stack the cards in your favor, you can knock the corners off with sanding, you know, possibly. But I think cutting this is actually going to probably be the best way to go. So, oh, and let me go get my phone real quick so I can open up the YouTube app and kind of keep an eye on things. It's harder for me over here now. I don't have access to my the comments. So let me go to my channel. Here we go. Skip ad. Skip trial. All right, so I got my phone here, so I should be able to kind of keep an eye on things. Yeah, it's Friday. Yeah, to be honest, like out of the box, like I tend to press, you know, I always tended to put too much pressure on the tailstock. So I would bend mandrels too, but I had some that out of the box, like brand new. I never got one that was what I considered straight. So I'm going to take some light cuts here. I'm not particularly worried if the outside kind of chips off. Frankly, another thing that I wanted to mention is you can also just cut, you know, here's the brick one. We'll do this one of these times. I might just do this on my own, but you might actually just cut off the outsides. That's not a bad way to go. Then you don't have to worry about turning this stuff on the outside. But again, like I'm not that worried if it does come off or anything, but so far everything's cutting fine, you know, not getting any problems. Not going fast enough, that's the problem. So let's stop and see what's happening. Yeah. So far so good, like I said. Not really running into any issues. This is probably not a bad time to wear a face mask, you know, just in case little chips come out. All right, still going strong. Now, one thing about these two, these are 1-inch blanks, so you're going to actually have a bit of turning if you're making a pen blank or making a pen out of these. You're going to have a little bit more turning to do than you know, like your 3/4 inch blank. So I would actually say that some of these 1-inch ones, I mean, these would be a pretty good handle blank. You know, maybe make a bottle opener or something like that. Not too bad. You got a little bit more meat to work with, let's say. And so one other thing that I think kind of goes without saying, but I should probably mention it, is, you know, make sure that your tools are sharp. You know, that's obvious. You want to make sure, you know, if you're using carbide, and you can use carbide, there's no problem with that. I definitely like to start out and get blanks round with a gouge. It just, to me, it's a better experience. But make sure that you've gotten this, you know, nice and sharp, keep it sharp, and then, you know, if you're using carbide, go, you know, rotate that carbide cutter and start with a fresh edge. You know, you just want to kind of stack the cards in your favor when you're turning things that may be problematic. But like I said, I'm not that worried particularly about this. I think we'll be okay. So once I've gotten this nice and rounded up, I'm going to switch over to my carbides and we'll kind of go from there. I'm not particularly going easy on this right now. And it's cutting fine. Not having any issues at all. Looks like, you know, the little paw prints we might have to fill with some CA. It just maybe isn't getting fully infilled. I'm not sure, but it looks like there's some little holes there. And we can take care of that with no problems once we get everything kind of turned. And to be honest, I'm really not even going that easy on these. It's cutting fine. So we've almost gotten it rounded now. All right, so we're round. This liquid diamonds, what I find is the liquid diamond shavings are a little bit more staticky than Alumilite. So one little difference that I've seen. I don't know if all epoxies are kind of similar to that, but Alumilite doesn't seem to be as static clingy. Still sticks to you, but just one thing that I've kind of noticed over the years. All right, so let me. So I kind of got a new camera set up because I moved everything around. So let me move this over a little bit. Try and get you guys in to see a little bit better. I gotta kind of be careful with everything. Got a lot of wires and things going on here. Stop bouncing. So we're looking pretty good. Like I said, there's some little holes there. I'm not sure, Ashley, you might be able to get a little bit more infill. I'm just not sure. I don't know much about 3D printing, but the little toe guys, a couple little holes. Like I said, not a big deal though. We can even probably get a little bit of white. You can maybe fill the end thing with a little bit of epoxy and you wouldn't even know. Dyed, like white dyed epoxy. Maybe even do that, you know, with a little bit of CA glue that's been dyed white. Sometimes you can get some curing issues with CAs, though. But yeah, but I mean, everything's looking pretty good. These little little dog bones are cool, little paws. So let's move you guys back over here. Raise this up, and I'm going to zoom out a little bit here. What do you guys think about this camera angle? reasonable. I can put it like right back so you're just looking straight down also. But yeah, I don't know. I've tried to do, I've had that same problem with some of the stuff that I've 3D printed too, where it's supposedly 100%, but you know, I don't know. This is a tiny little bit too. It's kind of hard for that thing maybe to do a round thing and fill it. I'm not sure. Yeah, I like it. It's looking good. So let me kind of blow things off a little bit. And I'm going to pull out my round carbide. Looking at the edge here, I think I got a pretty decent edge. I think I just turned it. So I think we're good to go there. Got my tool rest at the right height. And that's cutting just fine. Let me double check. I'm not. Let me just move this thing around. It might have been the other one that I switched. So I'm just gonna get myself a little bit, move it to a fresh edge. There we go. Just gonna try that out. See what that does. Yeah, it looks like I am getting a little bit of melting, so I gotta be a little bit careful. Scraping is probably going to generate a little bit more heat. So one thing to kind of watch out for is, you know, probably don't leave the cutter on a certain area for too long. You know, probably best to take kind of lighter cuts. I would probably say you're probably best using a cutting tool on these. I really think that would probably be the best way to go, is to just shear the PLA, because it does definitely heat up a little bit. Hey Ashley, have you tried printing these with ABS? ABS, that's what I print most of the things that I have cast, and you get a little bit less, you know, you don't have that melting point as low. So just one thought maybe to try out. Or maybe they got PLAs that have higher melt points too. Might not be a bad way to go. Let me stop. One thing I want to try is I want to actually just put I'm going to pull a brand new carbide cutter out real quick and just make sure that it's just in case. You know, I tell you guys to use a sharp cutter, and then I'm not 100% certain that I was using it definitely wasn't a brand new one. So let me just switch that out and see if we get any difference with that heat buildup that I'm getting. Frankly, you know, it might not even be a bad thing to do a regular cutter in this case. I don't know. When I did some testing, you know, I will say that the negative rate cutters are less aggressive, but you know, because of that, you're also kind of just scraping the surface a lot more. It's not really cutting. And some of the tests that I did, I actually got better results cutting, you know, acrylic acetate blanks. I actually kind of got better results cutting with a regular standard cutter during my tests when I was turning pens. So that's one thing to kind of think of is, you know, sometimes less aggressive isn't necessarily the best way to go. Oh yeah, that's actually cutting a lot better. So I think my cutter was a little bit dull. Look at that. All right, so let's look at the surface now. Oh yeah, so that's much better. I'm not getting that heat buildup. So you definitely want to make sure that you got a new, you know, sharp edge with your cutters. But these negative rake ones are working fine now. I still wouldn't recommend kind of lingering in one area. For too long, because it will generate more heat in that area. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. And actually, some of these little paw things are kind of, I kind of heated it up and it actually sort of filled those in a little bit. Unintended consequence. Happy mistakes. So I'm probably going to leave this thing kind of thicker than normal in the middle. Just because I like, you know, like cool blanks like this that have something neat in them. I'd rather kind of leave more meat on my blanks. And that's why I kind of leave most of the pen blanks that I turn a little bit thicker than, you know, I don't go for like the super skinny, exactly, you know, the same size as the bushings kind of thing. This one I might even go a little thicker. I don't know. Nope. Let me stop. Oh, you don't have an enclosure. Well, you know, to be honest, you can just like you can put any kind of makeshift enclosure around it. The heat from the bed should do pretty good. But there are, I will say that there are a lot of, it's not even just that. There are some issues with ABS, with adhesion to the bed and different things like that sometimes. Yeah, SLA, I want to try that too. Scared of the resin dust. It's not any different than this. I don't think. It's just UV resin, which for the most part is like a polyester or, you know, urethanes or polyester resin. It's basically the same kind of thing as what we're turning here, what we make our blanks out of. Square bit carbide. Yeah. I don't usually, maybe, are you talking about the R2 or the, like an actual square one? Because I don't think I would use a square bit myself. Yeah, I do like this green. That was a good call. All right, so we got the ends. That end is nice and pretty flush. I still have some work to do. This is it's pretty fat. I will say that, but that's like I said, I'm kind of going for thicker blank. I got to do a little bit of work. To be honest, I like having a little bit of light. It helps me see when I'm trying to kind of get down in. Problem is, it probably blew it out on you guys' screen. got a little bit of a kind of a chunk. It looks like I kind of heated this up right here, so we're going to have to do a little bit of filling there, unfortunately. Might have had some like resin get in there that kind of popped out. I don't know. So we got a little bit of a dent there. Not a big deal though. Like I said, I think what I'm going to do is I think we're going to try and fill those things with a white dyed glue or resin. I like to just blow the mess somewhere else. All right, so looking pretty good here. I think I like the shaping. It's not too bad. R2, yeah. I like to use the R2 kind of as like a finishing thing. I definitely get a smoother surface with that usually. But I will say I'm not a super amazing technician with carbide. It takes a little bit of, you gotta have a little smoothness too, and I'm not the most smooth guy on the planet. I don't think this cutter's very sharp. Let me see if I got a sharper edge than this. I'm going to rotate this one also. I don't think that edge was very fresh. Not bad. All right, so I'm going to move you guys right in front so you can kind of take a peek at this thing, but I think I'm about done with the shaping here. It's looking pretty good, I think. A few little tool marks down there. It's really cool though. This side is really good right here. Actually, that one is too. We're doing pretty good. We got the only issue. Well, we got this. I think I'm going to try and take this out because that's just kind of funky. So I'm going to try and take that down. That may be one thing you might need to kind of think about is, also we kind of have the bone. It's like mixing in to each other. So I think I'm going to try and actually take this down and see if I can get those two little blobs out before we start sanding. But that's going to be something that just kind of happens with these kind of pattern print things. You're just going to have to kind of deal with trying to get the right thing. Yeah, definitely, Rich. Oh, was that you that tagged me? I saw a tag and I didn't get to look at it. Was that on the Nova thing? I just briefly saw a notification, but I couldn't actually get there. Let's see here. Brian, how's it going? Yeah, so I hope everybody's doing pretty good today. I might try to do some extra streams. I know that there's a lot of people that are kind of stuck at home. I'm actually not a lot has changed for me because I don't actually stay at home. I come to a shop that's, I actually have like a commute, come out to my dad's shop and then, go home. So like really not a whole lot has changed with my schedule of things. But I do know that there's a lot of people that are kind of shut up in their house. And I thought maybe, for people that are kind of at home, maybe we can do some more stuff. I got to kind of plan that out, but probably starting next week, we might do a couple extra little things here and there. T-Rex skull. Nice. That's cool. Glow in the dark. Yeah, I think that the SLA printers might be a good way to go. I haven't tested anything. I think Chad said that he liked the results that he was getting with SLA. He has one of those, and I'm actually thinking about someday maybe getting one. they have some advantages. You can kind of, and Chad was talking about this when we were talking to Ashley, and it's nice because they, when you print like 5, if you're doing the FDM printers like this, where you're talking like where it lays down melted material, if you want to do 5 things, it's going to have to print 5 things. Whereas with an SLA printer, it's just printing. It can print everything on a layer all at once while it goes up. It's not going to add more to have more stuff per, layer. So it's actually got some advantages outside of just the material. But the downside to the SLA stuff is then it's messier. You got all these liquids and resins and stuff, and you got to like wash them afterwards, I guess. I don't know a whole lot about it, but I do know that you're in for a little bit more than, than the FDM type printers. I want to look and see exactly where. I think it's right here, but I didn't really take a peek. Okay, so we're up here on this one, but down here, we want to kind of try and take that out. So I was going to leave it a little bit thicker, but let's try and take it down and get rid of those things. Hopefully we won't make any more of those types of things. Sometimes you try and take one thing out and you add something else, but that one's getting there. We're getting that one. And I think we will be able to kind of get through that. I don't know. We may have to go pretty far. To get that one out. One thing that may also keep your heat down is actually going a little bit maybe slower. You might play with that depending. Typically you're going to get a better cut going faster. So I usually, when I'm turning a pen, I'm going fast as the lathe can go. But in this case, that could maybe change things a bit. Dang it. I don't want to make it too thin. This one may not come out. I don't know if we're going to get this completely out, but I think we can get this little blob up here. We also have another one of these down at this end. So, one thing to kind of keep in mind, I think it'd be fairly difficult to get this nailed for every type of pen, size, kit, thickness, all that kind of stuff. That probably wouldn't be as much of an issue on if you're doing like a handle blank where you're not really turning it down as far. Maybe Ashley can chime in on that a little bit, speak to that. That might be how it works. Something to think about at least. Let's see here. Italy! Welcome to the stream, Francesco. Hopefully I said that right. Am I selling this pen? Yeah, I probably will, I guess. Why not? Dang, we still have just a little mark. I don't want to make this too skinny, but I think I want to keep going and try and get that little guy out of there. Tree businesses. Huh. Yeah, I'm really hoping that this doesn't go much longer than a couple weeks. A lot of, yeah, post-processing. Let's see here. Locked up in PA. Yeah, I actually, one thing that I need to do is actually clean the bed of my lathe. We had some like acid issues. My dad had some acids that were in the shop and they got all over everything. They were in the air. And I've been having like a rusty, acidy coating thing issue with a lot of the metal, you know, or cast iron in my shop. So I need to clean the bedway. So I got a few things to do while we're doing a little bit of downtime. Sorry, I'm looking at the comments here, trying to see what's happening here. As it gets rounder, that one bone will stretch. Let's see here. Oh yeah. Well, I'm gonna try and take a little. I'm gonna go a few more passes and hopefully get things settled on this thing. Yeah, well, I don't really want to sand this. Sanding is definitely going to heat up that PLA faster than cutting. So I want to try and cut this out if possible and minimize the amount of sanding. Another thing that I'm going to do is probably go with a full CA finish on this just to make sure that everything's sealed up and the finish that we get on it is even, because I'm guessing that PLA doesn't particularly polish, you know, the same, let's say, as liquid diamonds resin. Let's see where we're at now. Got to be getting close. Oh man, it just doesn't seem like I may have to take this way down, which is not what I wanted to do. Let me hit the light so I can see what I'm doing here a little bit better. Problem is, the more cuts you make, the more chance you have of blowouts. By the way, let's see here. Michio, I'll have this listed on my website when we get it all done. Got to get it finished first, though. Man, I think we're just gonna have to leave that because I can keep going and it's just gonna be super thin. So let me just take another pass. I think we're just gonna kind of leave that little blob there. That'll be the bottom of the pen. Another thing that you can think about is, you know, little things you can cover with the clip. So kind of keep that in mind as well. But if I keep going down, this is gonna start merging into that one, and so I think I tried. But I don't think that we're going to get this to turn out any better than it is. And since it hasn't blown up yet, I think I might just kind of say, well, rather finish the pen than try and get that little blob out and run into a problem. All right, so we're going to slow this guy down. So let's see here. Before we go any further, I think what I'm going to do here, we definitely need to take care of this little chippy part. Let me try and zoom in on that for you guys. Let me actually turn the light off too. Oh, sticking my fingers in the lens. Let me zoom in on that so you can kind of see what we're dealing with there. See that little... Stop wiggling. See how we got a little bit of a chip out there. That's a pretty big thing to fill. I don't think that CA glue is really the best option for that. I think I'm going to mix up some 5-minute epoxy real quick. So don't look at the screen, guys. We're going to kind of move this back a little bit, zoom out. I'm just going to mix it up over here on a little plate. Where are my little plate things? I've moved things around in the shop and things are all over the place at this point. I don't know where they all are. All right, so we're just going to use a little bit of parchment paper. We'll mix up a little 5-minute epoxy, add a little bit of white dye to it, and I think that we should be pretty good. Now, the one issue with this is, actually, let's try CA glue, because it'll actually be quicker. I would recommend that you use 5-minute epoxy, but you're really going to have to kind of wait a good amount of time. So let's see if we can do this a little bit faster. And I think what I'm going to do, let me turn off this screen real quick. Let me get my camera adjusted, and then, so I'm just going to put it back on the splash screen so you guys don't have to watch this thing bouncing around all over the place. I'm going to move the camera back behind so you can just kind of see what I'm doing here. Bear with me. I thought that I had a good amount of room behind my lathe here, but to be honest, it's not exactly a ton of room. Okay, we're getting there. Okay. All right, so you guys are looking from the back side of the lathe there. Let me stop real quick, check the chat. Yeah, it ended up turning out pretty thin. Are the pores done in layers? No, this thing was, all the bones and things like that, those are 3D printed, and it's just one big thing. Go back and watch the previous live stream replay, and you'll see what we did to make this thing. Ashley chipped builds, 3D printed it, and she hooked me up with one of these, also a brick one, while we were at the SoCal Pen Turners gathering. So I'm gonna dump out a good amount. This is medium CA glue. I want to have a good amount of that stuff because you really can't add too much dye to CA glue. So I'm literally going to get a toothpick, and we're gonna just put a tiny little drop, a little pinprick of dye. Let me get my screen here. Make sure I'm on the screen. So I'm literally just we're just going to add a tiny bit and keep adding some. I should have got more toothpicks. We have a limited time of working time with this. So this might take a couple seconds here, but like I said, if you're trying to fill something, I would just go with 5-minute epoxy, but we're trying to kind of hurry things up here, so. And I have been able to get CA to work like this, but It's not the best option. I don't really want to put it on too thick. I'm going to put a lot of thin layers on, basically. So I'm going to put that on. It's fairly thin. I'm going to hit it with some activator. Now I got to watch out because I don't want to get my toothpick glued on. That's hardened up. Might be a little bit thick. Let me, did that harden? Okay. All right, so I think we might be good here. Now I need to turn that off. And if that's still liquid, I might try and grab another toothpick and just try to kind of fill some of these little paws. They're not that bad, actually. Most of them kind of filled in a little bit, but we can just kind of add a little bit here on top just to fill it in and basically just get rid of that. It will hide it completely. And then turn it off and we'll be good to go. Got a couple on this side. Whoa, my CA's running. All right. So hopefully that'll kind of fill things in a little bit. Not a bad idea to hit the fan when you're doing this kind of stuff. CA glues tend to burn the eyes a little bit. Especially if you get your head real close to it like I'm doing. All right, so I think that'll be good. The rest we'll just fill with regular CA. So I'm going to hit this with a little bit of activator. Make sure all that stuff's nice and hardened up. And then we're going to come back and actually just turn that away. So let's see here. You're not sure that little blob will come out? We're good, we're good. Oh, that was actually before. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough knowing when to stop. Oh, let me just take one more. Let me just take one more thing. All right, so I think that's, you know, you're better off leaving this for longer than this probably, but we are going to just slightly kind of come in and try and chip this stuff away. Let's see here. So I definitely know I got a brand new cutter on this, so I'm going to use this tool. And we're just going for very light cuts. Okay, I think we did pretty good there. I'm going to come back now with the R2 cutter. I just tend to get a better, smoother finish with this one. kind of smooths everything out for me. And I think working from home, no problem, Eric. You can just hang out, chill, watch a little bit here and there, say hi, you know, no big deal. That's the beauty of this. I think prior to the social media thing, this lockdown period, the quarantine thing, isolation, I think it would have been a lot worse. At least we can all kind of stay connected. Many of us can get some work done. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people that can't, and that worries me, but better off than in some cases. So I've gotten this surface pretty smooth, I think. It's reasonable, but I'm going to start with 220 grit, and I think I'm actually just going to wet sand out the gate. We're just going to do wet sanding, and I've been playing around with just using silicon carbide paper, and I've been getting pretty decent results with that. I'm just, you know, I like to kind of play around, try different things out. So we're going to be using some 220 silicon carbide. I'm going to get a cup full of water, and we're going to just wet sand the whole way. That'll definitely keep our heat, you know, down on the PLA. And we should have less problems overall. I maybe could start with 400, but I think that 220 will make the job go a little bit faster. Not that I don't like Abranet, but I'm just curious to try different things out because I've never really done it this way before. So I'm going to slow this down to about 300, maybe 400, somewhere around there. And what I want to do here is I want to sand this. I want to get it nice and smooth. And then what we're going to do is we're going to sand it up to 400 grit or so. And then we're going to put a CA finish on top. There's really no reason to go to sand much higher than 400, maybe 600. If you're going to be putting a finish on. I usually just go to 400. In fact, I think I'm actually just going to rip some of this off. I don't need this to be wadded up like that. I don't really need a very big piece of it, and I can get a little bit more feedback into my fingers and feel the surface. I prefer thinner. You know, I never liked those micro mesh pads because you couldn't really feel what was going on. Everybody's favorite part of the project, sanding, right? Unfortunately, it's one of the most important things to get a good finish. So we got to deal with it, but you know, still haven't found a miracle cure, one step, you know, and you're done kind of thing. Joel, you definitely don't need talent or anything. If you want a new lathe, get a new lathe, but it's not going to change anything. You know, it goes both ways. If you want, like, what I'm trying to say is, if you want to get a new lathe, you don't need to have any kind of more skills or less skills. And frankly, I am definitely not a skilled turner. I am a very average hack at turning for the most part. I'm pretty good at pens. You know, I will say that. I do pens well, but you get me outside of pens, and frankly, I don't really know anything more than anyone else. So I don't have any 400 grit silicon carbide paper. It's on the way, but so this is Abranet. One of the things that worries me slightly with Abranet, and this is why I'm kind of messing around with silicon carbide, is when you're dealing with resin, you know, this is metal. It's a metal screen. And I'm just wondering if maybe, you know, does that have any adverse effects? You know, for the most part, I don't see any when I'm sanding with Abranet. I've been using it forever. But I also really just have not used silicon carbide ever, which is wet dry sandpaper, and it makes the most sense. It's one of those kind of obvious, you know, maybe I should try that out kind of thing. So I'm just kind of playing around with it. I got some more on the way. I'll be doing some more turnings and trying out different sanding things, experiments and things. And if I find that, you know, I don't know that I'm going to find that I get better results with silicon carbide, but if I do, definitely, then I will definitely share with you guys. I have a feeling that it really doesn't make any difference, you know. The one thing is, though, I think silicon carbide paper, for the most part, is probably a little bit cheaper. The downfall, or the drawback to silicon carbide compared to Abranet is a screen, which generally it's a more open paper, and it's not going to want to clog as much, which is more helpful when you're not using water. You know, in general, if there's no water, if you're not wet sanding, you know, silicon carbide is kind of useless. I would not, you want to, especially with resin, you really want to be using water with it because it's a closed grain thing. So I don't know if that made any sense, but it did to me. So let me stop this. I want to look at this and see where we're at here. I'm actually going to hit it with my light, kind of a raking light coming forward so I can see the scratch patterns. It's definitely looking pretty good. So I think we're going to go up to 600. Or what I'm actually going to do is we're going to hit it with the first, this is actually a 750 grit. This is the 3M polishing papers. We're going to hit it with this. The liquid diamond, so we use liquid diamond's resin with this, and I didn't give it the full 7 days, and it may be a little bit soft, so I'm going to go up a little higher grit just in case the resin is, you know, tends to be a little bit on the softer side, just to take out any 400 grit scratches that are a little bit deeper than I really want. Kind of polish this up a little bit more. I don't really want to go much higher than 750. And another little trick, if you're sanding resins, you know, and I didn't do that this time, but if I knew that I was going to use like 3 different grits, you know, you can turn the lathe on and sand the way that I've been doing, radially around the, you know, the outside, putting scratches this way. And then the next grit, you can just sand this way, like lengthwise along the blank. And you know, once you've gotten all the radial scratches out, that you've, you know, that you're good. Like you've gotten, like, let's say that I started, you know, again with 220, those are all radial scratches. And then with 400, if I sand this way, when there are no radial scratches left, you know, you can move on to the next grit, and then you know, the next one would be the opposite direction, where you can do it this way. And once you've gotten rid of all the sideways scratches, you know that you've taken care of the 400 grit. So that's a kind of a good way to go if you're kind of unsure. You don't really know how long you need to sand, or just to be absolutely sure. It's the easiest way to ensure that you've done a good job sanding is change the direction of the scratch pattern every grit. So I think the single most important thing to get a flawless finish on resin, you really have to sand, well. You have to get all the sanding scratches out from the previous grit before you move on to the next one. Otherwise, you're going to be hosed. You'll get to the end and you'll realize, oh, I still have kind of deeper scratches that I couldn't see. And then you'll have to drop down and take those out by hand, kind of, or just redo it to get it to be, super glossy. That's kind of the key to getting a really high gloss finish on resins. All right, I think that's probably pretty good. All we're doing is putting a CA finish on this anyway, on this surface. So let's dry this guy off. I'll give you guys kind of a look at it up close with a little bit of extra light even. Let's see, where did I put my light? Let me get behind the camera here. Kind of zoom in. Whoops. This is the way to zoom. Oops. Get this thing centered. Zoom in a little bit more. So the surface is pretty good here. I got to get in front of the camera here. That's a nice looking surface. I don't even really see too many scratches. So yeah, that's good. So the next step, we're going to put our CA finish on. Zoom out here. I like to hit things like this with a little bit of this, again, the super fast thin. This is what I use. This is my, the duct tape of, of CA glue. I like to use this stuff to just fill in stuff and give it, just kind of a quick, surface covering, because it's going to soak into any little imperfections or gaps or things. So I like to hit it with that first, let it dry, and I don't use accelerator on this first one. So I'm going to hit it with the super fast thin, and then I'm going to switch to, for finishing, I actually like Mercury. Their thin flex. Personally, I get the best results with that one. Let me stop real quick. Find my hack. Well, okay, so Joel, wait till you see the grapevine sphere video that should hopefully be coming out this Sunday. I bungled that one up really bad, and frankly, I just kind of gave up on it early. Now, I will say that it turned out excellent, but the turning part is not so good. Not so good. All right, so I use just regular paper towels to apply my CA. Well, technically, I've found that I like the Bounty ones. I know a lot of people don't like the Bounty ones, so everybody's got their own little ways of doing things, likes and dislikes. I like the Bounty ones. I find them to be pretty good, but they are kind of absorbent, and that's why some people don't like them. So what I'm going to do here is, let's see, I'm actually going to just kind of douse this, kind of wipe it up with the paper towel. So we're just kind of giving it a nice coating. Like I said, that'll kind of seep into any areas that are a little bit, we still got a little bit of a hole in that little toe there, but I think we'll be okay. And that just kind of primes the surface. The thin, super fast thin from Star Bond, it also cures extremely fast. So you just kind of give it a thin coating, give it a few seconds, and then it's dry. It should probably be pretty much dry at this point already. So we got it, it's dry. I'm going to get this water out of the way. And then I switched to the thin flex. I like this a little bit better for finishing. It just seems glossier than a lot of a lot of CA glues. But it's like the perfect viscosity and working time for me. It's not so much that it's like a lot better than other brands or anything like that. It's just, it has the working characteristics that I want. And the way I do it, I just put a little blob on my paper towel and then just kind of go on it real quick. The key to CA finish is you want to get it on as smooth as possible, but you also just want to kind of get on and get off. Don't be rubbing it in. That's a recipe for disaster. The toilet paper shortage, yeah. Don't worry. I have enough extra right now. Next month, I may say that was a stupid idea applying that with a paper towel. We actually got we've had the shortage here too. There isn't any, but we actually bought one. We found a place that had toilet paper, and like it wasn't me, it was my wife, and like I guess everybody was like staring at her. She's like, "Am I gonna get lynched?" But we got us a 4-pack or something of TP, so we're good now. All right, so that's pretty good. And then from here on out, I like to get that first coat on. Is that glue or water? Let me get this water off the lathe bed here. That's not good. I don't know why my bed is rusty. But after I've gotten that first coat of the thin flex on, then I just go with the accelerator. All right, and it goes pretty quick. So I do 4 coats of the thin flex, then I give it a little bit of a sanding to kind of knock it back, and then maybe 1 or 2 coats. On this thing, we shouldn't really have a whole lot to fill, I don't think. I think that most of that stuff, the filling, we did beforehand. So as long as the blank is totally smooth, you don't have to put on, 50 billion coats. Kind of give it a little wipe to get any extra accelerator off. But this is a pretty fast, it doesn't take that long to do a CA finish. That's one of the things that I really like about it. It's really durable, really clear, really glossy, and it's the fastest way to get it on. JP, what's up, Jamie? How's it going, man? How's things in the UK, buddy? Sorry, I had to get a new paper towel. In fact, I'm actually going to make a brand new one. Here. There we go. So 1 more coat of the mercury. And then I'm going to give it a little sanding, because again, the big thing is you need to get this smooth. If there's a bunch of ridges and bumps and stuff, you're not going to get your CA finish glossy. So we did 4 coats of the thin. Technically we did kind of 5. We did 1 little dousing with the star bond. But the way that I count them, I do 4 coats of the mercury thin flex. And then what we're going to do now is we're going to hit it with some of that 400 grit sandpaper. I usually do this dry, but I got a wet piece of 400, so. And all this does, let's see, can you guys see that surface? I don't know how good the view is. But I don't have like huge, the reason I like the thin flex, some people use medium and it just ends up somewhat, I don't get it on very, very smoothly. I can get the thin on really, really, there's a few little lines and things, but it's not bumpy. There's not a bunch of ridges. And so for me, this works the best. And all I'm going to do here is just kind of smooth it out with the 400. I don't know if hitting it with water right away is a great idea or not. I usually don't do it with wet sanding, but probably not going to hurt anything. I don't think. Definitely want to dry it off well, though. I'm not using much pressure here. I want to make sure everything's nice and smooth. We're going to put on a couple more coats after this because I've sanded some of it off. That's looking good. And then and at this point I can see some little glossy areas. Any shiny spots are low spots that I didn't really sand. And there's not that many of them. It's not really that bad. So we're going to go ahead and put a couple more coats on, and I think that we should be good to go. We'll be golden. The name of the game with CA glue is you want to watch how much sanding you do. You don't want to sand it all off. That's where the problems start. So the trick is to get enough coats on that you're not going to sand them off, you know. You want to get enough coats on and smooth coats on that you got enough base that you won't sand it all off. Hopefully yeah, that's sort of what I meant. Okay, so we'll hit it with a little bit of activator. Well, I sort of can talk and not step on my tongue. I don't know. Why I don't like micromesh. It works fine for sanding. I didn't like the pads. So, and I actually do have some I can pull out, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. You couldn't feel, there was not enough feedback, you know, like I couldn't feel what was going on. So they're like sponges, right? So this is the micromesh stuff, and the abrasive's fine. There's nothing wrong with it, but because it's so thick, they didn't conform to shapes of pens and things, and I didn't get good feedback into my fingertips. And so what I ended up doing, they actually sell micromesh in sheets, you know, without all that foam and all that stuff. The problem is, it's like, you know, micromesh has, I think, 9 grits, and it was all gray. It was all just different shades of gray sandpaper sheets. Like it looked like, you know, silicon carbide. And it was pretty expensive. And then I found the whatchamacallit, the 3M Zona type paper. And it comes, you know, one thing is it actually has less grits to get to the same end point. But they're colored. They're color coded, so it's cheaper. It's the same, you know, thin like I like it. So it's the same exact thing. I like this, you know, polishing papers. I just didn't like the micromesh padded stuff, and this stuff is cheaper. The Zona, Turner's Warehouse carries it now, and it's color coded, so you're not guessing. You know, which shade of gray is this one? It was really horrible. I couldn't believe that. They didn't have it like green, red, you know. Let's see, what am I doing? Where'd my thing go? I got one more little coat of this stuff to put on, and we will be done. And you want to try and get the final 2, you know, what I just did. Your final coats, you really want to try and get those things on as smooth as possible. That way, you know, at this point, I'm probably just going to start with the 750 Zona paper. I'm not even going to mess around with 400, I don't think. It kind of depends on what the surface looks like, but if you can get it on real smooth, then you can just start with polishing papers. If you got ridges, it might be faster to lightly hit it with 400. But I mean, this is a pretty good finish, I think. Smooth, you know, finish. All right, so let's do a little bit more wet sanding. One thing that is maybe not a bad idea is right now, when we still have, you know, we haven't finished this, it might not be a bad idea to kind of pop off your bushings because they will stick. One thing that I want to do is Brian Nikitas over at TBC Bushings, he makes Delrin bushings for any size, and I want to get a set of, you know, all the different pen bushings that I use. So basically they'll just look like these, but they're made out of non-stick Delrin. I want to have him make some of those because it'll be great. You don't have to ever worry about your CA sticking to your bushings. Now all I do to get them unstuck is I'll just, can you guys see down here? Sort of. Let me move some stuff. I usually do this on my Comet lathe, but I don't think it's going to hurt anything to do it on the bedways here. I just tap them. Probably wouldn't recommend doing that on your bedways, but maybe on your tailstock. Tap them a bit and they should pop off. Okay, that one's stuck a little bit. This is another reason why I don't glob on a big thick finish, because you will definitely get your bushings stuck. So I'm just lightly tapping that and they come out. Now at this point though, you may have, let me get on camera here, hanging over the edge, you might have little catchy things, little CA blobs. There are a couple. I don't know if you guys can see them. Where are we at here? See how there's little stuff hanging off? So what I do for that, this is the only reason to have a pen mandrel, guys. Let me make sure, let me get on camera here. So you can just use a paper hole punch with whatever sandpaper you want. I'm using, I think, 240 Abernet. Slide it down on that, and what I'm doing here is just lightly twisting it. Let me get back up on camera. Lightly twisting to just knock off any excess CA that's hanging over the edge. We want to get that nice and flat, because if that were there down the road when you go to put your pen together, or if I'm going to put this back on there with the bushings and wet sand it, you could end up cracking your finish if you squeeze some material that's hanging off the end. So we want to just kind of clean that up real quick right here. It's a simple 2-second thing, but it will save you some serious heartache. Because if there are, little things hanging off and you go to assemble your pen and didn't really think about it, and you crack your finish, there is absolutely nothing worse in the pen making world. Getting a blowout like on that last pass when you're turning it, that hurts, But when you screw up the finish while you're assembling the pen, that, oh my God. You want to talk about, throwing things, having a temper. That will just burns. So, and I've kind of cleaned off any extra that might be on these bushings. So now we got our blank ready to go here. Now we'll do a little bit of wet sanding and finish this guy up. So hopefully that all made sense. Let me stop and just see if anybody has any questions about what I just did. Let's see here. Oh, sorry for your loss, man. I'm glad that we could help out in some way. Yeah, I'm telling you, the pen mandrel, that's the only reason I use them. This is actually the pen mandrel from my shopsmith. It's not even my shopsmith. That was what I first started turning on. You'll notice that it's not a Morse taper. It's actually a straight thing that you use this little set screw, and that's how you turned a pen on a shopsmith. But any of those mandrels will do. The key to that is you want to make sure that you're using that mandrel part and pushing down so that the tube, your pen tube is riding along that. You don't want to make it like out of square kind of, and you don't want to use a lot of force with that, but it's the best way to just get a little bit of that extra off. Well, that's, yeah, glad that we can provide that, you know. It's I kind of feel the same way, you know. A lot of other channels, and I like a lot of, I haven't had any personal loss like that, but, you know, I'm into a lot of the astronomy channels and stuff like that, and, you know, when things aren't going, you have a bad day even, just a bad day, it's nice to be able to flip that on, see, you know, kind of a somebody that you follow doing something, you know, either explaining something or, you know, in the case of the maker world, making something cool. It definitely is a great thing. And I was talking about it, you know, with a lot of people are kind of on, you know, the isolation thing, quarantine. And I mean, man, it would really be terrible, you know, a few decades ago. You would have, oh, not much to do. And some people are kind of, you know, may live alone. Better read some books, I guess, or watch TV, but it's nice that we can all kind of get together. I think that's the difference. Social media and, you know, YouTube's a nice thing. We can all kind of hang out together and get through this. Now again, you don't want to do a lot of pressure. You don't want to spend a lot of time sanding. Better to, you definitely need to watch out if you have to take ridges out and you start dropping down, you know, to like lower grits. 400 should be enough. You probably don't really want to sand CA finishes much lower than that. You're going to sand through it. And that's no fun. So I'm actually going to wipe this off and I'm going to take a look. I like to kind of keep an eye on the surface. I want to see, you know, what's going on. I like to get a good light source and look at it, you know, and have the light kind of, I'm standing over here. So I want these light beams to kind of bounce off this thing so I can actually really see the scratch pattern. If you really want to get crazy with it, you know, you can get those like magnifying lens things and look at them under, you know, like a helmet thing. It's not a helmet, I guess, but you know, I don't know what those are called, but the magnifying lens things. I got a few little spots here. Still need a little bit more time. You'll know areas that are low that you haven't sanded are going to be shiny at this point. Everything else that you have hit with sandpaper is going to be dull. All right, so that's probably good there. I'm going to actually wipe it off a little bit. Then we're going to move up to the 1150 grit, which I thought I had one. I don't have one right there. Not to worry, I got one. So 1150 is the gray in the Zona pack. And the grit levels, they don't actually call out, like green isn't 750 on the package. They have a micron, you know, system of grits. And I kind of tried to convert the micron thing into, you know, like a grit level that we kind of usually use. So these are kind of approximate, you know, it may be 1150, maybe 1200, I don't know. I just kind of say 750, 1150. And then I don't know what the higher ones are. I didn't really convert those exactly. I usually only go to 1150 because the next step is buffing. So I don't even actually go through the entire process of every grit of this stuff. Usually. I think in this case, I think we're going to hit it with one more, which is just for good measure. The next one is a light blue color. Oh, that's turquoise. There. I gotta go cut one. Actually, I got scissors right here somewhere. We'll go with the light blue. Why not? We'll give it a shot. I like experimenting. It definitely ain't going to hurt anything. We'll go to the third grit, and then we're going to go over to the buffing wheels. And you should kind of see the reflection of light, you know, with each grit of this stuff. Should bring it up even higher. And I know Chad's done a video where he goes through, he likes just using the Zona paper. I kind of like hitting these, finishing up with buffing wheels. I just find that to be, I don't know, I kind of get the best results usually with that. But, you know, a lot of people do like just micro mesh or Zona paper, and they're happy with that finish. Some people use like plastic polishes. I mean, like all of these things, they're all the same thing. You know, each one of these is just a different grit. It's a grit system, an abrasive. And so whichever one gets you the best results, the most consistent and best looking results, then go with that. It really doesn't matter, you know, which one you use. As long as you're happy with it and can do it well, stick with it. Kind of my recommendation. Same with like gluing tubes in. That's always a big one. And some people swear epoxy's the best, and some people, you know, I usually use a CA method. And I don't really care what people use personally. Use whatever works. You know, if you're having problems, maybe try something different though, right? That's when you go and experiment with other things. But if it works, don't change it. All right, so that's looking pretty good, I think. I think we might have a few little low spots that I probably could have filled here and there on those little toes, but I think we're just going to push forward. It may not be dead flawless, but it should be pretty close, I think. So let me pop this guy off, and we're going to get the camera set up over at the buffing machine. Can't talk. Got to plug the buffing machine in too. So I just use a lathe, my mini lathe for this. I got buffing wheels set up permanently pretty much at this point on it. All right, so I'm actually going to unplug the camera, so it's going to say no signal. That's not true. You haven't lost the feed. I just unplugged the camera for a sec, so you guys don't have to watch the dizzying camera being dragged all over the shop. And it will make it easier for me to just get the cord out of the way. So let's see here. I think we can get the camera in over here, perhaps. Okay, so I'm going to plug it back in. I'm still kind of setting things up, so probably a good idea not to look at the camera. There we go. Oh shoot, did I use the wrong... Have I been on the wrong thing the whole time? Oh... Sorry, guys. I need to have a camera crew. I really do. Okay, so I'm actually going to back out a little ways, kind of show you what's going on here. So I have a little light on my Comet, and I have two buffing wheels. One of them I use for the triple E. Actually, I'm going to have to come over here, I think. Kind of do it this way. This may not be the best view. I'm going to put a dust mask on. You don't really want to be breathing this stuff. It's an abrasive, just like everything else. And let's see here. Let's see here. Hold on a minute. Okay. Oh, I closed my phone down on accident. Hold on a sec. All right, so I'm going to get my mask on, and then we will get to buffing. Mask, some goggles. So I'm going to charge up the triple E wheel. And this is TRIPOLY. It's the rouge that we're using, not to be confused with EEE, triple E.
that waxy polish stuff. This is a buffing rouge called Triple E. Whoa, almost lost it. And I'm going to be doing some testing. I actually tried out some car polish. I actually got this idea from Stone Coat countertops. They used this. I guess they have another one that's their own brand now, but I had this. And between Stone Coat and Ben over at Ben's Works, I don't know his last name, Ben. He uses car polish as like a final step for his turnings, and so I thought I'd give it a shot on that grapevine blank, the sphere, and I was actually pretty happy with it. So it made me kind of think I'm going to be messing around with some different polishes, and also I'm going to be getting another a higher grit than I usually stop with. This one, it's called White Diamond. I'm going to be getting, there's another one, the blue one, and I know a lot of people have already told me about this. I was getting, the results were fine, so I didn't really necessarily need to get something else. However, I get good results on pens using this setup all the time, but it's a little harder to get like super gloss on some of the larger projects that I do. So I thought I'd give some things a shot, but we'll be doing a little bit of testing with that, and when I find some results with that, I will definitely share with everybody. Okay, so it's probably good. And I'm just going to barely hit this white diamond wheel. You don't want to put a lot of white diamond on there. You don't need a lot. One thing I want to mention about that car polish thing, I didn't just apply it and rub it in. I actually used a separate buffing wheel. This is kind of the difference. I never really got into that stuff because I'd tried it just trying to apply, with my hand or whatever in a paper towel. Never got very good results. However, I think the key to that stuff, and this is the way Ben does it, is using an actual buffing wheel with that polish. That, I think, is kind of the key. And so, I'm getting some new buffing wheels, because even this is the wax one that comes with the Beal setup. It's still not even like the softest material buffing wheel that you can get. And you really want, if you're going for like that final gloss, you need a really, soft wheel, soft applicator of some sort. So I'm going to be getting some of those in next week. Kind of give it a try and see, what kind of results I get. It's interesting. I mean, you can study this stuff forever. Plastic polishes and, getting things glossy. But you never know. Let me actually get a light behind me or something. Oops. Let me put this down before I drop the pen blank. I'm going to kind of angle this down so that the light's hitting it. Oh, hit the camera. But yeah, that's looking pretty glossy, I think. Pretty nice. See that light shining back in there? Pretty flawless look. So I think we're good to go. What do you guys think? Turned out pretty good. All we got to do is put it together now. Joy loves green. Nice. Yeah, actually, if we would have done this a couple days ago, it would have been a good St. Patrick's Day thing. Let me drag this thing over here. So I'm going to, for a moment, I'm going to set that up there. A lot of people ask me about this, what I'm going to pull over here right now. This is what I usually use for pressing pens together. And I'll say, I got to be honest, this thing's pretty cool, and people ask, where do you get it? The place that I got this on special.
it was like they were clearing out. It was a clearance thing, and I only paid like 25 bucks for this. This is a great thing for like 25 or 30 bucks, but you can get them, but they don't sell them anymore there. You can get them at Grizzly, but I think they're like 60 bucks. And I got to be honest, guys, it ain't worth 60 bucks. Okay, so I have it, and I got lucky, basically, that they had them. But the other thing is, I will say that vertical, sorry, I'm I know that this was happening. I wanted to get my camera lower. I think vertical pressing for pens is the way to go. But you can just use your drill press. So if you have a drill press, that's fine. You know, like put something somewhat soft, you know, plastic or wood up in the top, and then have something that's kind of wooden or something on the bottom. And you can just use your drill press, and it does the same thing for free. And I don't have my drill press set up. I'm looking for gloves right now, sorry. I don't have my drill press set up. It's set up for something else right now, and otherwise I would use it. But that's an easy way to get a vertical press without doing much. Now, one thing that's a drawback to this is I always like doing it over here, but it moves around. You know, it's not stationary. I got to kind of clamp it down so it's not moving around on me. Whereas the drill press it ain't moving. So I actually think there are some advantages to just using a drill press with some soft jaws, basically, soft things to not mar or dent or anything your pen blank. All right, so what I'm going to be putting on this, so this is a Sierra style pen. I lost my kit components. I have some more of those. I thought the carbon fiber might look good. Had some more of those. I'm actually kind of running low on different types of Sierras. I like Sierras for testing and things, for getting something done quick. But I thought we'd go with the carbon fiber parts. So the other nice thing is Sierras are great, especially for if you're just getting started with pen turning. They're so simple. You can just, you put your spring on your ink. The ink goes in the transmission. Hopefully I'm on camera. Ink goes in there, and then you just screw this part together, the tip. All right, and let's see here. Make sure that it works. There's a little thing protecting the ink. So that's one component, and actually we just put that aside. The only thing you got to press, though, is the clip part, the end part. So now what I'm going to do is kind of look at this, see if there's any areas that I think are a good idea to cover. Kind of got a little bit of a hole in one of those paws. So we can use the clip to cover that up. I think I might go like that. Another thing I could do is put the clip over those kind of blobby areas, and then it'll kind of sit on the side. All your prints are basically on both sides. Here's another one of those blobs. There's a lot of white on this one. That kind of breaks that up. So it's interesting. There's different ways of putting your clip on can make the pen look different, or like I said, cover things up, or whatever the case may be. I actually think I'm just kind of holding this, looking at it. All right, so what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to cover this little blob. And with the pen sitting like this, with the clip up, the paw prints are kind of facing up from either side. All right, so that's kind of my rationale there. Actually, let me... Yeah, actually, I'm gonna same logic, but I'm actually gonna put it on this side to kind of break up that long kind of white thing that's going in there. That way, when you look at it from the side, it looks like a paw print. And even kind of from the top. All right, so I think that's what we'll do. Get this guy kind of set up here. Got to get the right height. And then make sure that I'm kind of in the right spot there and press it down. And then this side you just push in and you're done. So let me get behind the camera. Let me actually go get a light to put behind here too, so it'll kind of light up this thing. Helps to have a little bit of light behind you so you guys can see. What do you guys think? I think it turned out pretty good. Let me head over to the computer so I can look at the screen and talk to you guys at the same time. So what do you guys think here? Michio likes it. Yeah, so I'll get pictures of this and get it listed on my website. On my website, there's just a pens thing in the menu, so I got a few of the things that I make online. I don't really actually sell a whole lot of pens and stuff, finished items, but we've been trying to get things that I make because I tend to just kind of keep them for myself or just whatever, you know. So we're trying to get them up on the website. But yeah, Mike Schmitz, how's it going, man? Let's see. I just want to. Yeah, Michio, stand-up drill press. Yep, it's much easier. Use car polish. Yeah, like I said, I've tried the car polish thing with my fingers and I never got it to work very well. I just kind of, it was, now one thing I will say is I think that some of my conclusions about that may be a little bit wrong because I may not have been doing as diligent a job sanding. Like I said, I think that is the most important part. Like I don't really care if you use car polish or buffing or, you know, whatever. I think all those things kind of, you know, whichever one works best for you for that final step is great. But if you don't do a really good job of sanding, then none of them necessarily work. Now, the one thing that one of the reasons why buffing seemed to kind of work better. I was getting more consistent results for some reason. But I think that if you do the sanding part well, and the finish, the surface is pretty well flawless up to, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 grit, somewhere around there. I don't think it really matters which polish you use, whichever one you like. But I think that buffing wheels in general, I tend to like that process better. So maybe I'm just better at it. I don't know. But I definitely did like using polish and then using a buffing wheel with the car polish. It seemed to be I don't know. Like I said, I kind of have a tendency to like buffing in general, and it seemed to work pretty good. So yeah, nice. Let's see here. Yeah, you can use your lathe, but that's the problem. Like I used to use clamps, and I mean, that's free and easy. The problem is if you're trying to press things together horizontally, gravity's fighting you. And it just, I got a lot more times you end up pressing things that are not, going together right. If you use gravity, on your side, then you can line the things up. And since I've started doing it vertically, pen kits, anything that I press together, works a lot better. So I definitely recommend trying out the drill press or something. And you could even set up a clamp, upright. The problem is it can kind of move around and it's not as stable. So anyway, let me just read. Let's see here. Yeah. Well, like I said, I definitely, I won't kind of fluff off that I'm decent at pen turning. I'm pretty good at that. I ran into a lot of things. To be honest, I have been in the same boat as all of you guys, banging my head against the wall, with blowouts. And I kind of figured out that if you don't get the tube glued into the blank correctly, you're going to get blowouts. They're just way more common. So like little things I kind of chipped away at. And then like the finishing on pens, acrylics, like resin blanks. I mean, for a year straight, I would get scratchy things, and every once in a while it would turn out good. And it took me a long time to kind of get through that. And just the turning of them, I can kind of get through that, pretty quickly now at this point, because I've turned so many smaller things. I don't have a lot of experience with larger blanks, spheres, for sure. Like I said, you guys are going to laugh at the video on Sunday, because I don't know, it may not look as bad as. It got to the point, there's a point in that video where I just turned the blank, and it is so just bumpy and out of round that I just was like, oh my God, what did I do, kind of thing. I kind of stopped early turning because I just wasn't having that much fun, and I didn't have time to mess with trying to get it perfect. So I just stopped and sanded it, and it was just all lumpy and it's a mess. So there's lots of things that I'm not very good at with turning, that like people ask me things about just general turning questions, and I'm like, you need to talk to, like Carl Jacobson. Like, he knows how to teach you how to turn. Like, he knows, what's going on. There's so many better wood turners out there than me. But if you have resin casting questions, I'm pretty good at that. And pen turning stuff, I can usually answer that. So anyway, let's see here. Using a C-clamp, yeah. I was using the jet parallel clamps. They worked fine, they were all right, but the first time I did it vertically, I was like, oh, never again horizontally. They have round and square and diamond. Oh, I see. What were the lathe tools with the, yeah, so I use Easy Wood Tools usually. There's tons and tons of different brands of carbide. Basically look for carbide turning tools. There's lots of brands. I really do like the Easy Wood Tools brand. And then they have the negative rake cutters. So if you're doing, I think that it's a good option to go with. We go with those negative rake cutters. Let me go get a couple of cutters just so you kind of understand the difference. If you're kind of new to, oh shoot, do I have any regular ones? Yeah, sort of. That's weird. Well, I don't have an outstanding example, so I do apologize. I'm going to actually switch to this other camera. I don't use the regular ones that much anymore, so I don't have two of the exact same cutters. But we'll try and kind of get this going. So if you see the edge, the top edge kind of dips down. You see how there's the front edge kind of, it's not just dead flat. They call it negative rake because it's a slightly downward, the edge is slightly facing downward if you just put the tool horizontal. And that compares to, your standard carbide bits are just flat. And so they're a little bit more aggressive because they're coming in dead horizontal to the workpiece if you're holding the bar flat. So hopefully that kind of, I know it's kind of hard to explain and show, especially when I don't have two of the exact same type of cutters. But basically they have the same ones, and if you're turning resin blanks, I really recommend the negative rake cutters are just fantastic. They make turning resin a lot easier, and especially for resins that are difficult, that are chippy, brittle, they will help you get through that stuff. And it's actually, speaking again about turning, I would like hollowing things. I hated hollowing resin. I would be tense, and it was like horrible. And with the negative rake cutters, it changed the whole game. And I love hollowing by hand now, because you don't get, that kind of chippiness. So yeah, definitely the carbides are nice. You don't have to sharpen them. I think that's the big advantage. You hold them all. You're going to hold them all where the bar's just horizontal. So every single different type of cutter works the same. It makes things really easy compared to traditional, your gouges and things, cutting tools, which you saw me turning today. I do like them. I think there's definitely a place for them. But if you're just starting up, you know, are you going to go buy all these tools? You know, like you'll probably need to get a bunch of different types of tools with the just gouge types. You know, if you're turning bowls, that's one type of thing. Pens, you'd probably be doing something else. But you have to get a grinder set up, and usually you want to get the Wolverine jig thing so you can grind them. There's just a lot more involved with the regular, you know, traditional tools, whereas carbide, you can pretty much buy a set of 2 or 3 of them and turn just about anything that you ever wanted, you know, and get through it. So it's kind of a nice thing for a lot of different reasons that I like carbide. Eric, thanks, buddy. I appreciate it, man. Streams are, yeah, the isolation times. Like I said, I think I'm going to try to do a few more as this isolation period goes on. It's kind of tough because I got to get work done while I'm at the shop on most days, but you know, I was thinking about it. I can maybe just pop on and do like simple, like really short ones. I tend to end up going to 2 hours long, you know, and a lot of times an hour at least. But if I can maybe pop on and show just, you know, something small that I'm doing, tips or something like that, I thought, you know, adding a little bit more for people to do while if they're stuck at home might be a good thing for this period of time. So, but I appreciate it, man. Thanks for the support. Let's see here. Let's see. Sorry, I'm just reading. Any tips for making sure you get a good tube gluing? Yeah, I actually, do I still have the link copied? Yeah, here's a link to a video that shows how I do it. Now, I want to mention, and I think I said it in the video, this is more for your resin blanks and like not wood, not just your typical wood blanks. Those you don't want to put thin CA on the inside. It'll wood has moisture in it. Generally, it's not going to have 0%, and moisture tends to make CA glue cure faster. So this is for like your resin blanks and stabilized wood. This works for anything else but wood. For wood, you know, I usually use like a 5-minute epoxy usually, or a thick CA for wood. So like that, this is kind of a different game for those types of things, for wood blanks. But for these types, usually people run into problems and get blowouts. There's no grain in resin. So, you know, when people say they get a blowout, it's not like you got a catch because you were, you know, turning weird. There's no grain or anything like that. What happens is plastics can move, and if the thing isn't glued down from end to end everywhere, you know, really well, when it ends up getting really, really thin, it starts to kind of warp at the speeds that we're turning at, and then you stick a tool in, and it grabs a little bit, and then it blows out. And so at least from all the looking into this that I've done, that seems to be the biggest problem. So that video will help out and show you how I do it. I just think that there's advantages to doing it that way. And ever since I switched, I've gotten good results with that. But I also want to say that, and like I said before, you know, if you've got a method that works good, then go with that. You know, there's no reason to change what you're doing if you're getting perfectly good results. But if you are getting blowouts, you know, maybe try doing it differently. Try a different way, and that, you know, maybe try my way, and see if you get better results, basically. So anyway, yeah, guys. So I guess I will probably get going. So again, this Sunday we'll be doing the grapevine spheroid. I'm not even going to call it a sphere in the title because it's a spheroid. But it turned out pretty good. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching that one. It'll be launched on Sunday. I need to get some like you know, close-up shots of it to kind of finish off the video. But everything else is done on the video, and I'm pretty happy with the video. So. Hopefully you guys will enjoy that, and then be on the lookout. Keep an eye on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. I'm going to try and kind of bump up and do, you know, some more you know, streaming type things, and try and get some more content out for people that are at home and kind of in the isolation mode. So hopefully it'll kind of help you guys out. But anyway, where's the pen? So I'll give you guys one more view of the pen. Just in case you didn't see it before. This isn't the best camera to do this on, but... Oh, what am I doing? There we go. I'm pretty happy with it. So, yeah, Michio, I check out my website. I'll get it up there probably next week sometime. If you want to snag that pen, definitely do that. Yeah, so I guess that's about it. But I hope you guys are all doing great out there. Stay healthy, stay isolated, and we'll definitely get through this tough time that we're all going through right now. And if anybody has any questions or anything like that, definitely hit me up over on Instagram or Facebook. And if you want to help support the show, you can do so over on Patreon. We do a monthly patron live stream hangout and Q&A. So if you're somebody that's getting into resin casting, have some questions, or want a little bit of extra basically, and want to help support the show, do so over on Patreon, patreon.com/NVWoodworks. So again, thank you to Eric for the super chat. I really appreciate it, buddy. Unfortunately, couldn't get down to see you because I know you were going to come out for the Phoenix, the Turner's Warehouse classes. But we'll definitely reschedule that, and we'll get to hang out soon, hopefully. So I hope you guys have a great rest of the weekend. And yeah, I don't know. Get outdoors. I think I mentioned that earlier. Gretchen and I did a little bit of snowshoeing yesterday. And, if you're isolated, try to get outdoors, do a little bit of a walk, get a little bit of sunshine if you can. It really kind of picks you up. So that's my end of the stream, suggestion for everybody. And also get lots of work done in the shop if you can. If you got to stay home, may as well get some work done. So anyway, guys, I appreciate y'all coming out. Have a great weekend. Have a great rest of the evening. And I'll see you guys next Friday, 3 p.m. Pacific time, and we'll do another live stream. But be looking for earlier ones than that. Our regular one is Friday. Hopefully I'll do a couple extras during the week, and we'll try and get a little bit more content out to you guys. All right, guys, I'll talk to you later. I can't talk. It's the end of the stream. I can't even talk at this point. Have a good one, guys.